Have you ever wondered why you ended up in a relationship with a narcissist? It wasn't by chance, was it? When you look back on those moments, the days when you felt small, doubted yourself, unsure of what was real and what was just a facade, have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't an accident? That perhaps you were placed in their life and they in yours for a reason far deeper than you've ever imagined? I know, it sounds paradoxical. How could someone so full of mind games, manipulation and deceit possibly be part of any plan designed for your growth? But hear me out. You weren't placed in that relationship to be destroyed. You were placed there to be revealed, to be forged, to be awakened. And you need to hear this with every fiber of your being. You are not the victim in this story. You are the chosen one for a special mission, a mission to rediscover yourself. Across every culture, in every community, we are raised on stories of rising from the ashes, of people who emerge from adversity with strength and clarity. These are the ones who've faced injustice, who've been wounded, but instead of crumbling, they stood tall, becoming a beacon of light for themselves and for others. And just like them, your story isn't just about surviving the pain. It's about becoming someone new, a stronger version of yourself. The narcissist in your life, they aren't your enemy. Strange to hear, isn't it? But think again. They are like a magnifying mirror, exposing the wounds you've kept hidden, the fears you've avoided, and the limits you've placed far too low on yourself. They stirred parts of you that you might have ignored your whole life, if not for them. But because of them, you were forced to confront. You were forced to look within. You were forced to ask, who am I really when I'm no longer trying to please everyone around me? Where does my worth come from when it's not anchored in someone else's approval? You realize that staying silent just to keep the peace isn't kindness, it's the abandonment of yourself. I know you once thought the narcissist was the disaster in your life, but here's the truth. They were the catalyst for your greatest transformation. They were the storm that shook you awake from the slumber of limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging habits, and merely surviving day to day. Just like a traveler in the desert doesn't wish for a sandstorm, but it's the storm that teaches them how to find their way, seek out water, and survive stronger. Every moment you felt weak, doubted your worth, shrank yourself just to keep a relationship from falling apart, these were not signs of failure. They were markers. They were lessons. They were life. Or, if you believe in something greater, destiny's way of forging you into something unshakable. Neunschmidlovs Schirkewan und eine Gürtel Brynhivsen. And I need you to understand, the most important thing here isn't the narcissist. It's not about what they did to you, how they broke you down. The most important thing is what you learned about yourself in that journey. You learned how to stand back up, how to love yourself without needing permission. You learned how to set boundaries, how to say no, how to demand respect without apologizing for it. And I promise you this isn't the end of your story. It's only the beginning. If you're ready to continue this journey, if you want to uncover the deeper reason why you were placed in the narcissist's life and how to transform that experience into the launchpad for your greatest rise, then stay with me until the end of this video, because the truth you're about to hear might just be what you need to rewrite the next chapter of your life, a chapter where you don't just survive, you truly live. You might think that everything ends the moment you walk away from the narcissist, but no. That's just the surface. Because what truly matters isn't that you left them, but how you changed after everything. Think back to the early days, when you first entered that relationship. Maybe you carried with you kindness, patience, and the belief that love could heal all wounds. You tried to understand them, to love them, to become the person they needed. But the more you tried, the deeper you got pulled into a cycle that kept repeating itself. A cycle where every effort you made was twisted, where your kindness became a tool they used to control you, where every act of forgiveness was seen as weakness to be exploited. Then you began to doubt yourself. You asked, am I being too sensitive? Am I asking for too much? Maybe I just need to be a little more patient. But hidden within those questions, a part of you started to awaken. A part of you began to realize that this wasn't just their story. This was your story too, about the boundaries you never dared to set, about the old wounds you never dared to face. The narcissist wasn't just a manipulator. They were a mirror, a reflection of your softer parts, your fears, your longing to be loved unconditionally. And because they reflected those things back to you, you were forced to look deeper within yourself. You were forced to ask, why am I accepting less than I deserve? Why am I so afraid of losing someone who causes me so much pain? And right there, at the very point where you felt like breaking, you started to realize that you had a choice. You could keep shrinking, keep compromising, keep sacrificing yourself to hold on to a toxic relationship. Or you could rise. You could set boundaries. You could say enough. And when you say it, not with anger, but with clarity, with self-respect, with love for yourself, that's when you reclaim your power. They didn't expect you to do that. Because the narcissist needs you to doubt yourself. They need you to believe that you're weak. They need you to think you can't live without them. But here's the truth. They are the ones who fear losing you. They fear losing the person who reflects back to them what they refuse to face within themselves. They fear losing the supply you brought, the forgiveness, the compassion, the light you offered so freely. And when you start to see that clearly, when you realize that your withdrawal isn't a defeat but a triumph, everything changes. You no longer need their apology to close the chapter. You no longer need their acknowledgement of what they did, because you've already found the answers within yourself. This isn't an easy process. It's an inner battle, a war between your old patterns, the habit of people-pleasing, of minimizing yourself, of enduring, and the new self that's forming inside you, a self that knows your worth doesn't come from anyone else's acceptance, but from your own self-respect. And when you cross that threshold, the threshold of self-awareness, of setting boundaries, of choosing peace over chaos, you'll look back and understand that the narcissist wasn't the end of your story. They were only the beginning of something greater. They were the strong wind that extinguishes the faint candle, but ignites the resilient flame. This journey isn't meant to make you bitter, it's meant to make you stronger, not to build walls that isolate you, but to create healthy boundaries. Not to make you fear love again, but to teach you how to love fully, starting with yourself. Remember, this isn't the end. This is your awakening, and in the next part we'll explore even deeper why you were chosen to enter the narcissist's life and how you can transform that pain into unshakable strength. Are you ready? You know, it's that very question, why me, that opens the first door to a deeper truth. The truth that you were placed in the narcissist's life, not because you were weak, not because you were vulnerable, but because you carry something they could never create. Light, authenticity, compassion, and the power to heal. They saw it from the very beginning. In fact, you might not have even recognized that strength within yourself yet, but they did. They sensed the safety in your kindness, the trust you extended toward them, the way you were willing to listen and offer genuine love. And those very things, for them, became a threat. Why? Because your light exposes their darkness. Your authenticity makes their falsehood unbearable. Your compassion lays bare the cruelty they work so hard to conceal. And so they fight back. They manipulate, they twist the narrative. They turn your kindness into a battleground for power. But don't get it twisted. This battle was never truly between you and them. The real struggle was always between you and the unhealed parts of yourself. The narcissist was merely the trigger, the spark meant to test whether you were ready to face those buried wounds. They forced you to confront the fears you had long avoided, pushed you to examine the depth of your need for love, even at the cost of accepting less than you deserve. Maybe before you met them, you believed that unconditional kindness was an unshakable virtue. You believed that if you were just patient enough, loving enough, every crack could be mended. But you came to realize Love cannot save someone who refuses to save themselves. And more importantly, kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. This is what led you to ask, how did I end up in this role? How did I become the one bearing the weight for both of us? But the truth is, you weren't placed in their life to save them. You were placed there to save yourself, to awaken, to reflect, to rediscover the core of your being that perhaps had been forgotten. Imagine it like this. A seed cannot sprout in soil that is too undisturbed. It needs disruption, a stirring of the ground, even a storm, so the earth breaks open, letting the light in, allowing what has been dormant to rise. The narcissist was that storm. They didn't come to destroy you, but to trigger a rising within you, a rising that, without them, you may never have discovered. And then you understand. It was because you were strong enough that you were chosen for this experience. You were never someone who would easily break. You are someone who carries within you the power to heal and transform. You are someone who can face pain without letting it define you. You are someone who can learn to love yourself after having lost yourself in loving someone else too much. All of it, the pain, the doubts, the sleepless nights, they weren't meaningless. They were the fire that refines gold, the lessons life uses to forge you into someone steadier, clearer, and unshakable. And when you step out of that experience, not as the person you were before, but as someone new, you realize you never need to apologize for the boundaries you set. You understand that your kindness is a precious gift, but not everyone deserves it. You know you have the right to choose peace over chaos, the right to walk away without needing anyone's permission. So take a moment and reflect on this. Maybe you weren't placed in the narcissist's life to change them. Maybe you were placed there to change yourself, to reclaim your light, to restore your self-respect, to learn how to love and protect yourself in the most powerful way. And in the next part, we'll dive even deeper into the true nature of a relationship with a narcissist, why it mirrors back not only your wounds, but your hidden strength. As you begin to see your role more clearly in that relationship, you realize that the narcissist wasn't just a manipulator. They were a magnifying mirror, reflecting back every unhealed part of you, the cracks, the limits that were never tested, and even the reserves of strength you never knew you possessed. At first, when you looked at them, all you saw was selfishness, cruelty, deception. You thought, this is their problem, this is their fault. But as the chaos dragged on, as the mind games repeated over and over, you started to sense that you weren't just an outsider watching it all unfold. Something within you was being triggered every time they manipulated, a deep reaction, a discomfort that felt all too familiar, a quiet question whispering in the back of your mind. Why am I enduring this? That's exactly what the magnifying mirror does. It doesn't just show you what's happening out there, it reflects the stories within, the beliefs, the wounds, the memories you may have forgotten or buried. Maybe long ago you were taught that love means endurance, that forgiveness knows no bounds, that sacrificing yourself is the only way to hold on to love. Those beliefs quietly lived inside you until the narcissist came and amplified them 100-fold. They forced you to face your primal fears, the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being enough, the fear that if you stopped trying, stopped giving, you would lose everything. And in doing so, they highlighted the parts of you that had never truly healed. They didn't create the wound, but they awakened it. But here's the crucial part. They didn't just magnify your wounds. They also magnified your hidden strength. When they pushed you to your limits, when they tested every boundary, when they distorted the truth, you began to glimpse your own resilience. You saw that you could endure, that you could love, that you could forgive more than you ever thought possible. And then, when everything shattered, you realized you could stand back up. You could say, enough. You could set boundaries and hold them. It's like a fire. At first, just a faint flicker, delicate and uncertain. But when tested, when the wind blows hard against it, it doesn't extinguish, it roars to life. The narcissist was that wind, testing your endurance, forcing you to choose between continued compromise or rising up to protect yourself. And the most incredible thing, through this process, you began to realize you were never as weak as you once believed. You discovered that your compassion isn't a burden, it's a strength, as long as it's directed where it belongs. You learned that forgiveness doesn't mean allowing someone to keep hurting you, and you came to understand that your self-worth doesn't come from enduring someone else's mistreatment. It comes from standing up for yourself. This is the lesson that the magnifying mirror brings. It exposes everything you need to see, to awaken, to heal, to transform. Not to make you bitter or to close your heart, but to teach you to love more consciously, to help you choose what truly deserves your light and your love. And that's why, after all is said and done, the narcissist isn't the end. They're the beginning. They are the awakener. And it's you who decides, after seeing yourself reflected in that mirror, who you will become. In the next part, we'll explore how to transform these wounds into strength, and most importantly, how to rebuild yourself with healthy boundaries and a love for yourself that cannot be shaken. Then after facing those reflections, after seeing every crack and every hidden glimmer of light within yourself, you find yourself standing at a crucial crossroads. A question rises in your mind, clearer than ever before. What will I do with what I've just uncovered? Will I allow these wounds to keep steering my life? Or will I step into the journey of transforming this pain into strength? This is the moment where healing begins, not because the narcissist changes, not because they apologize or make things right, but because you change. You begin to understand that what you once believed were weaknesses, your compassion, your forgiveness, your capacity to love, are actually your core strengths, as long as they are guarded by firm boundaries. That's the key word. Maybe in the past you thought setting boundaries was selfish, too rigid, or something that would hurt others. But now, after enduring manipulation, you realize that boundaries aren't walls that block love. They are the fences that protect the peace of your soul. Boundaries are the way you say, I value myself enough not to let anyone cross this line. And this isn't an easy lesson. It requires you to face the fear of abandonment, the fear of disappointing others, the fear that if you stop giving, you'll stop being loved. But here's the truth. The biggest lie the narcissist ever planted in your mind, and sometimes one you've told yourself, is that you need to sacrifice your peace to hold on to love. But love that demands you sacrifice yourself, endure pain, or stay silent in the face of harm, that's not love. That's control. And the narcissist, in their own painful way, taught you this lesson. Now, standing amidst the wreckage of old expectations, of boundaries that were once crossed, you have the chance to rebuild yourself on a stronger foundation, no longer dependent on the approval of others, no longer measuring your worth by how much you can endure, but starting by asking, what do I truly need to feel at peace? What do I truly deserve? You learn how to say no, not with anger, but with clarity and self-respect. You learn how to walk away, not out of hatred, but because you know you deserve better. And every time you set a boundary, every time you refuse to be manipulated, you reaffirm to yourself, I have the right to be loved without sacrificing who I am. There will be moments of doubt, times when you wonder if you're being too harsh, if you're losing the softness in your soul. But remember, softness does not mean being trampled on. You can keep your heart open, but your feet must stay firmly planted. You can continue to love, but that love must be guided by wisdom and self-respect, unless he's spilowed. And this is the deepest transformation the narcissist, whether they know it or not, has triggered within you. They thought they could shrink you, make you forget your worth, but instead they helped you redefine your limits. They helped you understand that real love doesn't come from losing yourself, it comes from protecting the truth of who you are. And when you make it through that storm, emerging with your self-respect intact, with a heart stronger and healthier, you're not just healing yourself, you become a guide, someone who can recognize manipulation from miles away, someone who can teach others how to love without losing themselves. In the next part, we'll explore how to recognize counterfeit love, how to distinguish between emotional whirlwinds and truly healthy connections, where you are seen, heard, and valued for exactly who you are. And then, after everything, after the wounds begin to scar over, after the boundaries have been firmly drawn, there's a deeper lesson waiting for you, learning to recognize real love from counterfeit love. This is the very lesson that the narcissist, whether intentionally or unconsciously, forced you to learn in the harshest way, because counterfeit love doesn't show up wearing the mask of a deceiver. It doesn't reveal betrayal right from the start. Quite the opposite. It's sweet, alluring, and full of promises that speak directly to the deepest longings of your heart. Narcissists know this. They mirror your dreams. They become the perfect image of what you believe you've found, until the mask slowly begins to slip. And you see, counterfeit love is like an underground storm. It starts with gentle breezes, beautiful words, promises of a future that feels like everything you've ever wanted. But as you step deeper in, as you give more of yourself, it pulls you into the eye of the chaos, where you can no longer tell the difference between genuine affection and a manipulative power play. And this is where many people lose their way. They confuse emotional intensity with genuine love. They believe that passionate highs, grand romantic gestures, and sweet promises are proof of something real. But here's the truth. Real love doesn't need to be flashy. It's peaceful, steady, and clear. It doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't make you feel like you have to work harder just to be loved. After leaving a narcissist, you come to realize that a healthy relationship doesn't drain you. It doesn't sap your energy. It doesn't distort your perception of reality. Real love gives you space to breathe, to be yourself, to feel safe in your own vulnerability. There are no mind games. There's no guessing whether today they love you or whether they're manipulating you. And then you understand those emotional roller coasters, the dizzying highs and crashing lows, the excitement laced with anxiety. That's not love. That's adrenaline addiction. That's deliberate emotional manipulation. Narcissists know how to make you feel like you're living in a movie, where everything is intense, where you always have to fight to hold on to their attention. But once you wake up, you realize that love is not a chase. Real love, it's presence. It's the ability to listen without judgment, the steadiness through ups and downs, the freedom to be fully yourself without fear of rejection. It doesn't come with hollow promises, but with consistency in action. It doesn't make you compromise your boundaries. It respects and cherishes them. And this is the greatest lesson the narcissist experience teaches you: the difference between intensity and safety, between fleeting brilliance and lasting stability. You begin to notice the subtle signs more clearly. Do their words align with their actions? Do they respect the boundaries you set, or do they constantly try to control? How do you feel after each interaction? Energized or drained? These questions are no longer signs of distrust. They are wisdom. They are your map, guiding you away from emotional storms, helping you welcome only what truly nourishes your soul. And the beautiful thing is, as you start to recognize real love, you begin to attract different kinds of people. People who don't require you to sacrifice your peace to love them. People who see you in your fullness, who never ask you to shrink yourself. It's in that moment you realize that your confrontation with the narcissist wasn't just a dark chapter. It was a stepping stone leading you into healthier, more beautiful connections where real love can flourish. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into how to rebuild yourself after such wounds, how to strengthen your self-worth, keep your heart open without being vulnerable to harm, and love again, but this time the right way. And now, as you've made your way through every layer of pain, as you've seen yourself more clearly through each reflection, each crack, each old limit pushed and tested, you stand at the threshold of a new chapter. But The most incredible discovery you've made isn't about how much you were hurt. It isn't about what someone else did to you. It's about who you've become after it all. A person who knows their worth. A person who no longer needs anyone else's validation to know they are worthy of love, deserving of respect. A person who knows how to keep their heart open but no longer allows just anyone to step in and cause harm. You've learned how to say no without feeling guilty. You've learned how to walk away without carrying resentment. You've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean allowing repetition. It means giving yourself the freedom to move on. And most importantly, you've learned that peace isn't some far-off ideal. It begins within. It begins with the boundaries you set, the choices you make every single day to protect and nourish yourself. There may be moments when you remember the narcissist, not because you still love them, not because they hold power over you, but because they unknowingly became the catalyst that led you back to yourself. They were a painful lesson, but also a stepping stone that revealed the untapped strength within you. And from this moment forward, you no longer walk as someone wounded. You walk as a warrior, someone who has survived the storm, who stood tall amidst mind games and manipulation, who held on to the most essential parts of yourself, your light, your compassion, your strength. When you look back on this journey, don't see it as a tragic chapter. See it as the place where you found yourself. No one can take that from you. No one can dim the light you've ignited within. And if today these words resonate in your heart, if you feel that spark of your own strength rising, remember this: you are not alone. There is an entire community of people who have walked through darkness, who have learned how to stand again, who have reclaimed themselves, and they are ready to walk alongside you. So hit that subscribe button, share your journey in the comments below, because your story might be the light someone else needs to find their way. And don't forget, this journey isn't over. There is so much more for us to explore together, so many lessons, so many opportunities to love ourselves more, deeper, fuller. You've survived. Now it's time to truly live.